On a snowy Christmas night in Boston, a lonely 72-year-old billionaire sat alone in her wheelchair, a lavish dinner in front of her already cold and untouched. But her solitude was quickly broken when a black father and his young daughter walked in. The little girl looked around, then suddenly walked straight to the woman's table and whispered, "No one should be alone on Christmas." She even handed her a handmade Christmas card, filling the woman's heart with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. No one knew that what happened after that moment would change all three of their lives forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The snow fell heavy over Boston that Christmas evening. Inside the Golden Oak restaurant, warm lights glowed against dark wood panels. Families laughed around tables decorated with candles and holly. Children ran between chairs, their excitement filling the air with joy. Catherine Morrison sat alone at table 12. She was 72 years old. Her white hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She wore an expensive black suit that hung slightly loose on her thin frame. Her hands rested on the armrests of her wheelchair, fingers trembling slightly from the cold that never seemed to leave her bones anymore. In front of her sat a prime rib dinner, untouched. The meat had gone cold 20 minutes ago. She stared at the empty chair across from her. 5 years ago, her husband Thomas would have been sitting there. 5 years ago, she could walk. 5 years ago, everything was different. The accident played in her mind like a film she couldn't stop watching. The icy road, Thomas driving, the truck that came out of nowhere, the moment of impact, waking up in the hospital unable to feel her legs, the doctor's gentle voice telling her Thomas hadn't made it. 5 years of physical therapy, 5 years of learning to accept this wheelchair, 5 years of being alone in a house that felt too big and too quiet. A burst of laughter erupted from the table next to hers. A mother was cutting turkey for her 2 young daughters. The father was making silly faces. The girls giggled. The mother reached over and squeezed her husband's hand. Catherine's chest tightened. She looked away. Her phone sat on the table. No messages, no calls. Her son James was in France with his new wife and her children. He'd sent a text that morning, "Merry Christmas, Mom. Sorry we can't make it this year. Next year for sure. Love you. Next year." That's what he'd said last year too. She picked up her fork, put it down, picked up her water glass. Her hand shook. She set it down carefully, afraid she'd spill it, and everyone would stare at the pathetic old woman who couldn't even hold a glass steady. "Ma'am, is everything all right with your meal?" The waiter appeared beside her, his young face concerned. "It's fine, thank you." Her voice came out raspy. She hadn't spoken to anyone all day. "Can I get you anything else, dessert, coffee?" "No, just the check, please." He hesitated. "It's Christmas. You sure you don't want to try our chocolate cake? It's really good." She looked up at him. He couldn't have been more than 25. Probably had his whole family waiting at home. Probably couldn't wait to leave work and join them. "Just the check," she repeated. He nodded and walked away. Catherine reached for her purse. Her fingers brushed against something small and hard. She pulled it out. Thomas's wedding ring. She carried it everywhere. 43 years they'd been married. 43 years she'd built Morrison Industries from nothing, working 16-hour days, missing James's school plays and soccer games and graduation, because there was always another deal to close another building, to acquire another million to make. And for what? To sit alone in a restaurant on Christmas surrounded by families she wasn't part of, eating a dinner she couldn't taste, going home to an empty penthouse where no one waited. The tears came before she could stop them. Hot and sudden. She pressed her napkin to her eyes, trying to hide her face. An old woman crying in public. How pathetic. "Excuse me, ma'am." Catherine looked up, expecting the waiter with her check. Instead, she saw a little girl, maybe 6 years old, blonde hair in braids, wearing a worn purple coat that was slightly too small. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. Her blue eyes were wide and serious. "Are you okay?" the girl asked. Catherine quickly wiped her eyes. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Thank you." "You're crying." The girl stated it matter-of-factly without judgment. "Why are you sad? It's Christmas. Nobody should be sad on Christmas." A man appeared behind the girl. Tall, early 30s, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt that had seen better days. His dark hair needed a cut. He had a day's worth of stubble and tired eyes that held too much worry for someone so young. "Emma, honey, we need to go." He put his hand on the girl's shoulder. "Sorry to bother you, ma'am." But Emma didn't move. She was still looking at Catherine with those unnervingly direct eyes. "You're by yourself. Emma said. That's why you're sad. You're alone. Catherine's throat closed up. This child had seen in 3 seconds what she'd been trying to hide for 5 years. Emma, please. The man's voice was gentle but firm. He looked at Catherine apologetically. We were just leaving. Again, I'm sorry. No, wait. Catherine heard herself say it before she knew she was going to speak. It's all right. She's right. I am alone. Emma reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something wrapped in crumpled tissue paper. She held it out to Catherine. I made this for my daddy, but I think you need it more. Catherine took it with shaking hands. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a handmade Christmas card, construction paper folded in half. On the front, Emma had drawn 3 people holding hands in crayon, a tall figure, a small figure, and a faded figure in the middle. Inside, in shaky letters, Family is Love, Merry Christmas. Catherine stared at it. The stick figures blurred as her eyes filled with tears again. Emma made that for me this morning, the man said quietly. The middle person is supposed to be her mother. She passed away 2 years ago. Catherine looked up at him. His face held grief that matched her own, the kind that never really goes away, just learns to live inside you. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Thank you. He cleared his throat. Come on, Emma. Let's let this nice lady enjoy her dinner. But she's not enjoying it, Emma said. She hasn't eaten anything. And it's Christmas. Nobody should eat alone on Christmas. The girl looked up at her father with such pure determination that Catherine felt something crack open inside her chest. A place that had been frozen for 5 years suddenly felt warm. She's right, Catherine said. Nobody should eat alone on Christmas. She looked at the man, at his worn clothes and tired eyes, at Emma in her too small coat, at the way his hand protectively held his daughter's shoulder. Would you join me? Catherine asked. Please. I have far too much food, and I would love the company. The man's face went through several expressions at once. Surprise, uncertainty, pride warring with something else. We couldn't, he started. Please, Catherine said again. It would mean the world to me. Emma's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Can we, Daddy, please? The man looked at his daughter, then at Catherine. She could see the moment he decided. Okay, he said. Thank you. That's very kind. Emma immediately climbed into the chair across from Catherine. The man sat down more slowly, looking uncomfortable in his worn flannel among the restaurant's elegant decor. I'm Catherine Morrison, she said. Daniel Parker, and this is my daughter Emma. It's very nice to meet you both. Catherine signaled the waiter. Could we please have 2 more menus, and perhaps you could warm this up? She gestured to her untouched dinner. As the waiter hurried away, Emma was already pulling crayons from her pocket. Do you have any paper? She asked Catherine. Emma, you can't just… Daniel started. It's fine. Catherine pulled a notebook from her purse. Here, sweetheart. You can draw whatever you like. While Emma bent over the paper tongue poking out in concentration, Catherine looked at Daniel. Thank you for this, she said quietly. I meant what I said. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Daniel met her eyes. Neither should you. And in that moment, something passed between them. An understanding. They were both people who had lost too much, who understood what it meant to keep going when everything inside you wanted to stop. Tell me about yourselves, Catherine said. How did you end up here tonight? Daniel glanced at Emma, then back at Catherine. We actually came to the wrong restaurant. We were looking for Murphy's Diner down the street. I promised Emma a Christmas dinner out, but… He trailed off looking embarrassed. This place is a bit out of our price range. We were just going to go home and have mac and cheese, Emma added cheerfully, not looking up from her drawing. But Daddy said we should walk around and look at the Christmas lights first. And you saw me through the window, Catherine said. Emma did. Daniel smiled at his daughter. She has a gift for seeing when people need help. The waiter returned with menus. Daniel's eyes widened slightly at the prices. Catherine saw him do quick math in his head. Order whatever you'd like, Catherine said. Please. It's my treat. I insist. Ma'am, we can't. You can and you will. Her voice took on the tone she'd used to run a billion-dollar company. Consider it a favor to me. I was having a miserable Christmas until you 2 walked over. This is the first time I've smiled in… I can't remember how long. Daniel looked like he wanted to argue, but Emma was already pointing at the menu. Daddy, they have chicken fingers and French fries. Daniel sighed, but his eyes softened as he looked at his daughter. All right, chicken fingers it is. And for you, Catherine asked. Just a burger is fine. Thank you. They ordered, and as they waited for the food, Catherine asked more questions, not prying, just gentle curiosity. And Daniel slowly began to talk. He was a carpenter, self-employed, did custom woodwork furniture repair whatever jobs he could find. His wife, Sarah, had died of lung cancer 2 years ago. She'd been a teacher. They'd met in college, married young, had Emma right away. The medical bills were... He stopped, his jaw tightening. They were a lot. We'd just started paying them off when Sarah... He couldn't finish. Emma looked up from her drawing. She reached over and patted her father's hand. "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy's with the angels now. She's not sick anymore." Daniel's eyes were bright. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Catherine felt her own throat tighten. She understood that kind of loss, the kind that carved you hollow. "What about you?" Daniel asked after a moment, clearly wanting to change the subject. "Do you have family in Boston?" "I have a son, James. He's in France right now with his family." "That must be hard, being away from him on Christmas." Catherine chose her words carefully. "We're not as close as we should be. That's my fault. I spent his childhood building my business instead of being there for him. By the time I realized what I'd lost, he'd already moved on with his life." "It's never too late," Daniel said. "Maybe." Catherine looked at Emma, who was now drawing what appeared to be a Christmas tree. "You're doing it right, being there. That's what matters." "I'm trying." Daniel's voice was rough. "Some days are harder than others." The food arrived. Emma dug into her chicken fingers with the enthusiasm only a 6-year-old could muster. Daniel ate his burger slowly, like he was trying to make it last. Catherine watched them and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just warmth, not just less alone. She felt needed. This man and this little girl had walked into her life by accident, or maybe not accident. Maybe it was something else, something she'd stopped believing in years ago. "Emma," Catherine said, "would you like to help me with something?" Emma looked up, ketchup on her chin. "What?" "I'm not eating my vegetables. They're delicious, but there's too much for me. Would you help me finish them?" Emma wrinkled her nose. "They're green beans." "They're good for you," Daniel said automatically. "I'll make you a deal," Catherine said. "You eat 5 green beans, and I'll tell you a story about when I was a little girl on Christmas." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really? Really? Okay." Emma speared a green bean with her fork like it was a dangerous enemy. She ate it, made a face, then looked at Catherine expectantly. Story time. And so Catherine told her about growing up poor in South Boston, about her mother working 3 jobs, about the Christmas when she was 7 and thought there wouldn't be any presents, but her mother had secretly saved all year to buy her a single doll. "I still have that doll," Catherine said softly, "in my bedroom. I've kept it for 65 years. "Because it reminds you your mommy loved you," Emma said. "Yes, that's exactly right." Emma ate another green bean without being asked. They talked through dinner. Catherine found herself sharing things she hadn't spoken about in years. About Thomas. About building Morrison Industries from a single rental property to an empire. About the accident. About the wheelchair and the long, painful recovery that never quite brought her all the way back. Daniel shared, too, about Sarah's diagnosis, the year of treatments that didn't work, the night she died holding his hand while Emma slept in the chair next to the hospital bed. "I didn't know how I was going to keep going," he said quietly. "But then Emma woke up and asked me if we could have pancakes for breakfast. And I realized life just keeps going, even when you think it can't. Even when you don't want it to," Catherine added. "Yeah." They sat in silence for a moment, not uncomfortable. Just 2 people who understood. "Can I tell you something?" Emma said suddenly. "Of course, sweetheart. You remind me of my grandma. She died before I was born, but Daddy shows me pictures. You have the same kind eyes." Catherine's vision blurred. She reached across the table and took Emma's small hand in her wrinkled one. "That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me in a very long time." Emma smiled. Then, without warning, she started to sing. "Silent Night, Holy Night." Her voice was thin and slightly off-key, but it was the most beautiful sound Catherine had heard in 5 years. Daniel joined in his deeper voice, harmonizing with his daughter's. Other diners started to look over. Some smiled. A few pulled out phones to record. Catherine just closed her eyes and listened. When they finished, the restaurant erupted in applause. Emma beamed. Daniel looked embarrassed but proud. Catherine opened her purse. She pulled out her card and handed it to Daniel. "I want you to come to my home," she said. "Tomorrow, for coffee. There's something I'd like to discuss with you." Daniel looked at the card. His eyes widened as he read it. Morrison Industries. You're that Catherine Morrison. I am. Ma'am, I can't. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. My address is on the card. She looked at Emma. I have a piano. Do you like music? Emma, I love music. Mommy used to sing to me every night. Then you can play my piano while your father and I talk. Please, Daniel, just coffee and a conversation. Daniel looked at his daughter, at the card, at Catherine. Okay, he said finally. Tomorrow at 2. Catherine smiled. For the first time in 5 years, she had something to look forward to. As they stood to leave, Emma threw her arms around Catherine's neck. Merry Christmas, Grandma Kathy, she whispered. Catherine held her tight, breathing in the smell of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. She watched them leave, Daniel holding Emma's hand, Emma skipping beside him. Two people who had saved Christmas for a lonely old woman who thought she had nothing left to live for. Catherine looked down at the card Emma had given her, the stick figures holding hands. Family is love. Yes, Catherine thought. Yes, it is. Catherine didn't sleep that night. She sat in her penthouse apartment 20 floors above Boston and stared out at the city lights through the falling snow. Her mind wouldn't stop moving. Daniel Parker, 35 years old, widowed, single father, carpenter. At 6 in the morning, she called her personal assistant. Margaret, I need you to find someone for me. Full background, but discreet, very discreet. By noon, she had a file on her desk. Catherine opened it with trembling hands. Daniel Parker, born in Boston, grew up in Dorchester. Father left when he was 5. Mother raised him and his sister alone working as a nurse. No criminal record, credit score 580, total debt $180,000. Catherine flipped through the pages. Most of it was medical bills, from Sarah's treatment, chemo, radiation, experimental drugs they'd paid for out of pocket when the insurance ran out. After Sarah died, Daniel had sold their house to pay off some of the debt. He and Emma lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Roxbury now. He paid $900 a month in rent, made roughly $800 a month from his carpentry jobs. After rent, debt payments, food, Emma's daycare, he had maybe $300 left over. But that wasn't what made Catherine's blood run cold. It was the employment section. In the past 3 years, Daniel had applied to 23 different construction and carpentry companies, large firms, established businesses, places that paid steady salaries with benefits. He'd been called for interviews 12 times. He'd been offered positions 3 times. Each offer had been rescinded within 72 hours. Catherine read the emails. They all said the same thing in slightly different words. After further consideration, we've decided to go in a different direction. Budget constraints require us to postpone this position. We found a candidate who's a better cultural fit. Cultural fit. That phrase made Catherine want to break something. She kept reading. Daniel had stellar references, a portfolio that showed incredible skill. He'd done restoration work on historic homes, built custom furniture that belonged in art galleries. One of his pieces had even been displayed in a local exhibition. But none of that mattered, because Daniel Parker didn't have a college degree. He'd learned his trade from his uncle working construction jobs since he was 16 to help his mother pay bills. He couldn't afford to take 4 years off to go to school. He had to work. And somehow that made him not professional enough for these companies. Catherine looked at a photo in the file. Daniel and Sarah on their wedding day. They looked so young, so happy. They had no idea what was coming. She thought about Daniel pushing Emma on a swing, making her breakfast, helping with homework, working 12-hour days and coming home exhausted to tuck his daughter into bed, carrying the weight of $180,000 in debt he'd accumulated trying to save his wife's life, and being told again and again that he wasn't good enough. Catherine closed the file. She picked up her phone and called the head of Morrison Industries Development Division. George, I'm starting a new department, historic preservation and custom restoration. I want to integrate craftsmanship into our buildings. Real work, not the mass-produced garbage we've been using. George sounded confused. Catherine, that's going to be expensive. The board works for me. Get them together for a meeting on Friday. I'm making some changes. She hung up before he could respond. Then she wheeled herself to her closet and pulled out a box she hadn't opened in 5 years. Inside were Thomas's things, his watch, his reading glasses, a photo album. She opened the album, page after page of memories. Their wedding, James as a baby, family vacations she'd cut short for business trips. Thomas's smile getting tighter in each photo as the years went on. There was one photo near the end, James's high school graduation. Catherine wasn't in it. She'd been in Chicago closing a deal. Thomas and James stood together, neither one smiling. That was the beginning of the end. The moment her family stopped waiting for her to show up. Thomas had asked for a divorce 2 years after that photo. She'd talked him out of it, promised to change, to work less, to be present. She'd meant it at the time. But 3 months later, she was back to 18-hour days, back to choosing board meetings over dinner, back to everything she'd promised to stop. Then came the accident, and Thomas was gone, and James had barely spoken to her since. "I failed you," Catherine whispered to the photo. "Both of you. I failed." But maybe she didn't have to keep failing. Maybe she could do something right for once. At 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Catherine wheeled to the door and opened it. Daniel stood there in clean jeans and a button-down shirt that was frayed at the collar. Emma wore a yellow dress and held her father's hand. "Come in," Catherine said. "Please." They stepped inside. Emma's eyes went huge. "Wow," she breathed. "It's like a castle." The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Original art on the walls. A grand piano in the corner. Everything expensive. Everything perfect. Everything empty. "Emma, would you like to try the piano?" Catherine asked. Emma looked up at Daniel. "Can I?" "Of course. Just be gentle with the keys." Emma ran to the piano and began pressing keys at random, delighted by each sound. Catherine led Daniel to the sitting area. "Coffee?" "Yes, thank you." She'd had Margaret prepare everything. Fresh coffee, pastries, everything laid out on the glass table. They sat. Catherine in her wheelchair, Daniel on the edge of the couch looking like he might bolt at any moment. "I'm going to be direct," Catherine said. "I looked into your background." Daniel's face went carefully blank. "I see. I saw your work, your portfolio, your references. You're extraordinarily talented." "Thank you. I also saw that you've been turned down for 23 jobs." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Yeah, that's accurate." "Do you know why?" "Because I don't have a degree. Because I don't fit their culture. Because I have to ask for time off when Emma's sick. Because I'm not—" He stopped himself. "Because the system is designed to keep people like you out." Catherine finished. "People who learn their trade through experience instead of expensive schools. People who have family responsibilities. People who don't already have connections." Daniel said nothing. "I'm starting a new division at Morrison Industries. Historic preservation and custom restoration. I need someone to run it. Someone who understands craftsmanship. Someone who respects the history of buildings while making them functional for modern use." Daniel was shaking his head before she finished. "Mrs. Morrison." Catherine, I appreciate this, really, but I can't accept charity." "It's not charity. It's a job offer. You don't even know if I can do corporate work. I'm a carpenter. I work with my hands. I've never managed a department or dealt with budgets or—" "You've run your own business for 3 years. You manage your own finances. You've completed projects on time and under budget. You have skills these MBA graduates will never have because you learned by doing, not by sitting in a classroom." Catherine leaned forward. "I looked at your work, Daniel. Really looked at it. You're not just skilled. You're an artist. The restoration you did on that Victorian home in Beacon Hill, I saw the photos. You didn't just repair that staircase. You researched the original carpentry techniques. You found wood from the same era. You recreated moldings that hadn't existed in a century." Daniel's expression softened slightly. "That was one of my favorite projects. It shows. That's what I want. Someone who cares. Someone who sees buildings as more than just structures. Someone who understands that the work matters." "I still don't have a degree." "Neither did I when I started." Catherine smiled. "I took night classes for years while working full-time. Eventually got my bachelor's at 35. The degree didn't make me good at business. The work did." She pulled out a folder and handed it to him. "This is my offer. Director of Historic Preservation and Custom Restoration. Salary of $85,000 a year. Full health insurance. No more medical debt. Education fund for Emma. You'd have a team to manage. A budget. Real resources to do real work." Daniel opened the folder with shaking hands. He read in silence. This is too much. It's fair. Look at the market rate for similar positions. But you barely know me." "I know enough." Catherine's voice was firm. I know you showed up for a stranger on Christmas. I know you're raising your daughter alone while carrying debt that would crush most people. I know you've been rejected 23 times and you kept trying. That's character Daniel. That's what I hire for. What about a trial period? What if I'm not good at this? Then we'll figure it out together. But I don't think you'll fail. I think you're exactly what Morrison Industries need. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Catherine could see the war on his face. Pride versus practicality. Fear versus hope. Why? He finally asked. Why are you really doing this? Catherine looked at Emma, still happily playing the piano across the room. Because last night your daughter told me nobody should be alone on Christmas. And she was right. She saw me. Really saw me. And you both stayed. You didn't have to, but you did. She met Daniel's eyes. I've spent 5 years alone. 5 years wishing I'd made different choices. Wishing I'd put people before profit. Wishing I'd been there for my son instead of always chasing the next deal. Her voice cracked. I can't get those years back, but maybe I can do something right now. Maybe I can give someone a fair chance when the world keeps slamming doors in his face. Maybe I can use what I built for something that actually matters. She reached out and took his hand. This isn't charity, Daniel. This is me trying to be better, trying to do what Thomas would have wanted, what my son needed me to do years ago. Daniel's eyes were wet. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Please. Emma appeared beside them, tugging on Daniel's sleeve. Daddy, why are you crying? Daniel pulled his daughter onto his lap. These are happy tears, sweetheart. Emma looked at Catherine. Did you make Daddy happy? I hope so. Emma threw her arms around Catherine's neck. Thank you for being nice to us. Catherine held her breathing in that strawberry shampoo smell again. This child who had walked into her life and changed everything. No, sweetheart, thank you. Daniel wiped his eyes. He looked at the folder again, then at Catherine. Okay? He said. Yes, I'll do it. But I have one condition. What's that? I want to earn this. Really earn it. If I mess up, if I can't do the job, you have to tell me. Don't keep me on out of pity. Deal. But you won't mess up. How do you know? Catherine smiled. Because you care. That's half the battle right there. They talked for another hour. About the position. About Emma's schooling. About the historic buildings Morrison Industries owned that needed restoration. When they finally stood to leave, Daniel hesitated. Catherine, I still don't understand why you're doing this. The real reason. Catherine looked at him for a long moment. Because 72 years is too long to realize that money can't buy back time. That success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. That I spent my whole life building an empire and forgot to build a family. She gestured around the empty penthouse. All of this. It means nothing. But last night, sitting with you and Emma talking and laughing and feeling connected to something again, that meant everything. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? Yeah. After Sarah died, I realized the same thing. None of the things we owned mattered. The only thing that mattered was the time we'd had together, and I'd give everything I own for just one more hour with her. They stood in silence, two people who'd learned the same hard lesson from different kinds of loss. Start Monday, Catherine said. Come to the office, I'll introduce you to the team. Monday, Daniel smiled. I'll be there. As they left, Catherine watched from her window. She saw Daniel kneel down to Emma's level on the sidewalk, saw him hug her tight, saw Emma jump up and down with excitement. Catherine put her hand on the cold glass. Watch this, Thomas, she whispered. I'm going to do it right this time. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m., Morrison Industries headquarters. Daniel stood outside the glass building and tried to calm his racing heart. He wore his only suit, the same one he'd worn to Sarah's funeral. It still fit barely. Emma had kissed him goodbye that morning. You're going to be great, Daddy. Grandma Kathy picked you because you're the best. He hoped she was right. Inside the lobby was all marble and chrome. People in expensive suits walked past with briefcases and important expressions. Nobody looked at him. He took the elevator to the 15th floor. Executive offices. Catherine was waiting when the doors opened. Not in her wheelchair today. She stood with a cane, though he could see the effort it took. Daniel, good morning. Catherine, you're standing. Some days are better than others. Today is a good day. She smiled. Come, let me introduce you to the team. She led him down a hallway. Her cane tapped against the floor with each step. They stopped at a conference room. Inside, 6 people sat around a long table. They all looked up when Catherine and Daniel entered. "Everyone, this is Daniel Parker. He'll be heading our new Historic Preservation and Custom Restoration Division." Silence. A man at the head of the table spoke first. Late 50s, gray hair, expensive suit. Everything about him screamed old money. "Richard Chen, Chief Financial Officer." He didn't stand, didn't offer his hand. "When you say heading the division, Catherine, what exactly do you mean?" "I mean what I said. Daniel will be director. He'll have full authority over the restoration projects, budget allocation, and team building." "Team building?" Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And what qualifications does Mr. Parker have for this position?" 15 years of hands-on carpentry and restoration experience. "But no degree, no corporate experience, no management training." Catherine's voice went cold. "He has real-world experience, Richard, the kind you can't learn in a classroom." "Real-world experience?" Richard looked at Daniel for the first time. "Tell me, Mr. Parker, have you ever managed a multi-million-dollar budget?" Daniel's mouth went dry. "No, sir." "Have you ever overseen a team of more than 3 people?" "No." "Have you ever worked with architects, engineers, city planning commissions?" "I've worked with contractors and—" "That's not what I asked." Catherine stepped forward. "Richard, that's enough." "Is it Catherine, with all due respect, you're asking us to trust a 6-figure budget to someone with no relevant experience, someone we know nothing about?" "I know about him. That's enough." "Is it really? Or are you making emotional decisions because you're—" He stopped himself. "Because I'm what?" Catherine's knuckles were white on her cane. "Say it." Richard stood. "Because you're lonely. Because a man and his daughter sang you a song on Christmas, and now you're trying to adopt them." The room went silent. Daniel felt his face burn. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that he could do this job, but his throat had closed up. A woman spoke from the other end of the table. Late 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Margaret Sullivan, head of development. She looked at Daniel. "Do you even know what this job entails?" Catherine explained. "Let me be more specific. You'll be managing projects worth millions of dollars. One mistake could cost the company, could cost jobs. Can you handle that pressure?" I think so." "You think so?" Richard laughed. "That's reassuring." "Stop it." Catherine's voice cracked like a whip. "All of you, this meeting is over." "Catherine," Margaret started, "out. Now." They filed out slowly. Richard paused at the door. "You're making a mistake. The board won't approve this." "The board works for me." "For how long?" Richard's voice was quiet. "You're not well, Catherine. Everyone can see it. Maybe it's time to let someone else make these decisions." He left before she could respond. Catherine stood there breathing hard. Her hand shook on her cane. "Catherine," Daniel said quietly, "maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not. Don't." She turned to him. "Don't you dare let them make you doubt yourself." "But they have a point. I don't have experience with—" "They're scared." Catherine sat down heavily in a chair. "Richard wants to push me out. He's been waiting for me to show weakness. And Margaret, she's brilliant, but she only respects credentials, not capability. Maybe I should withdraw. I don't want to cause problems." "No." Catherine looked at him fiercely. "You're exactly what this company needs. Someone who cares about the work instead of the politics. Someone who sees people instead of just profit margins." She reached out and took his hand. "I believe in you, Daniel. Can you believe in yourself?" Daniel thought about Emma, about the medical bills that would finally be paid off, about giving his daughter a stable life, about proving that he was more than just a carpenter without a degree. "Yes," he said, "I can try." "Then that's enough. We'll prove them wrong together." The door opened. A young woman poked her head in, early 20s, nervous smile. "Mr. Parker, I'm Jennifer. I'll be your assistant. Catherine asked me to show you to your office." Daniel followed her down the hall. She kept glancing at him sideways. "I just want to say," Jennifer said quietly, "I think it's cool what you're doing. My dad's a plumber. Never went to college, but he's the smartest person I know." "Thank you. Some of the people here, they don't get that. They think if you didn't go to the right schools, you can't be smart. But I don't think that's true." She stopped at a door. "This is you." Daniel stepped inside. Corner office, big windows, a desk twice the size of his apartment's kitchen table. "I'll be right outside if you need anything," Jennifer said. When she left, Daniel stood in the middle of the empty office and felt panic rising in his chest. What was he doing here? He was a carpenter. He fixed broken cabinets and built bookshelves. He didn't belong in a corner office with a view of the city. His phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Love you, Daddy. You're the best. Grandma Kathy said she believes in you, and so do I." Daniel smiled. He texted back, "Love you too, sweetheart. See you tonight." He could do this. He had to. For Emma, for Catherine, for everyone who'd ever been told they weren't good enough. He sat down at the desk and opened the file Catherine had left for him. First Project Morrison Building Restoration, the original headquarters building from 1892, sitting empty for 10 years. Structural damage, historical significance, budget $2.4 million. Daniel pulled out his notebook and started making notes. He'd prove them wrong. All of them. 3 days later, Daniel presented his first proposal to the board. He'd worked 16-hour days, researched everything about the Morrison building, talked to historians, studied old blueprints, created a restoration plan that honored the building's history while making it accessible and functional for modern use. Now, he stood at the front of the boardroom with his laptop and a stack of papers facing 12 people who didn't want him there. Catherine sat at the head of the table, her wheelchair positioned where everyone could see her. "Mr. Parker," Richard said, "please proceed." Daniel's hands were sweating. He wiped them on his pants and began. The Morrison building was constructed in 1892 using traditional brick and timber frame construction. It's one of the few remaining examples of Richardsonian Romanesque architecture in Boston. His voice shook. He cleared his throat and continued. "The building's been empty for 10 years because previous proposals focused on gutting the interior and starting over, but that erases history. That's not restoration, that's destruction." He pulled up his first slide. "I'm proposing we preserve the original structure while integrating modern systems. Here's how." "Mr. Parker," Richard interrupted, "what's your timeline? 8 months for 8 months." Richard laughed. "The last estimate was 18 months. The last estimate involved complete demolition and rebuild. This is restoration. Different process. And the budget? $2.4 million. Same as approved. How can you possibly know that? Have you worked on projects this size before?" Daniel felt heat rising in his face. "No, but I've consulted with engineers and contractors who have. These numbers are realistic." Margaret spoke up. "What about permits? Historic preservation requires approval from multiple commissions. Have you factored in those delays?" "Yes, I've already started the application process." "Without board approval?" Her eyebrows rose. "That's presumptuous. I was trying to save time. Or you don't understand corporate protocols." Catherine's cane tapped the floor. "Let him finish." Daniel continued, but he could feel the resistance in the room. They weren't listening to his ideas. They were looking for reasons to say no. When he finished, there was silence. Then Richard spoke. "This is amateur work. No offense, Mr. Parker, but you're in over your head." "I disagree," Catherine said firmly. "Of course you do, but the rest of us can see reality." Richard looked around the table. "I move that we table this project until Mr. Parker gets more training, perhaps working under Margaret for 6 months." "No." Catherine's voice was steel. "Daniel is qualified. This plan is sound. I'm approving it." "You can't just—" "I can. This is my company. Not for much longer if you keep making reckless decisions." The room went dead silent. Richard realized what he'd said. "Catherine, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Catherine stood gripping her cane. "You're challenging my authority. Again. So let me be clear. Daniel Parker has my full confidence. This project will proceed as he proposed. Anyone who has a problem with that can submit their resignation." She looked around the table. "Anyone?" No one moved. "Good. Meeting adjourned." People filed out. Richard lingered, his expression dark. "You're making a mistake," he said to Catherine. "Then it's my mistake to make." When everyone was gone, Daniel sat down heavily. "I'm sorry," he said. "I made everything worse." "No, you did fine. They're the problem, not you. They all think I can't do this." "They're wrong." Daniel looked at her. "What if they're not? What if I fail?" Catherine wheeled closer. "Then you fail. And you try again. That's how this works. Nobody starts out perfect, Daniel. I didn't. Thomas didn't. James certainly didn't." She smiled sadly. "The difference is, I had people who believed in me, who gave me chances. You haven't had that, but you have it now." "Why do you believe in me so much?" "Because I see myself in you. 30 years ago, I was exactly where you are. No credentials, just talent and determination, and people telling me I couldn't do it." She reached out and squeezed his hand. "I proved them wrong. So will you." That night, Daniel came home to his tiny apartment. Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework with Mrs. Rodriguez from next door watching her. "Daddy," Emma jumped up and hugged him. "How was work?" "It was challenging." "Did you build something?" "Not yet. Still planning." Emma frowned. "Why do you look sad?" "I'm not sad, just tired." "You're sad, I can tell." She pulled him to the couch. "Tell me what's wrong." Daniel sat down. Mrs. Rodriguez quietly gathered her things and left, giving them privacy. "Some people at work don't think I can do my job," Daniel admitted. "Why not?" "Because I didn't go to college. Because I'm different from them." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That's dumb." Despite everything, Daniel smiled. "Yeah, it is. Grandma Kathy picked you. She's really smart. So they're wrong." "I hope so, sweetheart." Emma climbed into his lap. "Mommy used to say something. Remember?" "What's that?" "She said, 'Don't let other people's fear make you small.' Remember, she said it all the time." Daniel's throat tightened. Sarah had said that. Usually when she was dealing with difficult parents at school, kids who needed help, but whose parents were too proud to accept it. She did say that. "So don't be small, Daddy. Be big. Show them you're good at your job." Daniel hugged his daughter tight. "When did you get so wise?" "I was born wise. You told me that." "I guess I did." They sat together on the couch, the two of them against the world, just like it had been for 2 years. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. "Don't listen to them. You're going to change everything. Trust me." He texted back, "Thank you. For everything." Her response came immediately. "Thank yourself. You're the one doing the work." Over the next 4 months, Daniel threw himself into the Morrison building restoration. He hired contractors, managed timelines, dealt with permits and inspections and 1,000 unexpected problems. He also started something new. He created an apprenticeship program. He reached out to community centers in low-income neighborhoods, found young people who wanted to learn trades but couldn't afford formal schooling. He brought them to the Morrison building site, taught them carpentry, masonry, restoration techniques, paid them fair wages, gave them real experience. One of his apprentices was a 19-year-old named Marcus. He dropped out of high school when his mother got sick. Been working fast food jobs ever since. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus asked one day while Daniel showed him how to restore original plaster molding. "Doing what?" "Teaching us, paying us, giving us a chance." Daniel paused. "Because someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve one, when everyone else said no. And it changed my life." "Mrs. Morrison." "Yeah, she saw something in me nobody else did. Now I want to do the same thing." Marcus nodded slowly. "My mom always says there are 2 kinds of people, the ones who get help and forget, and the ones who get help and remember. You're the second kind." "I try to be." The work progressed faster than anyone expected. Daniel's hands-on experience meant he could solve problems the engineers couldn't. When they hit structural issues, he didn't need to call consultants. He knew how these old buildings worked. By month 4, they were ahead of schedule and under budget. Margaret came to the site one afternoon. She walked through in her designer suit and hard hat lips pressed into a thin line. "I have to admit," she said, "I didn't think you could pull this off. And now, you're doing better than I expected." She looked around. "The apprenticeship program is interesting, unconventional, but it's working." "Yes, it is." She extended her hand. "I owe you an apology. I judged you before knowing what you were capable of." Daniel shook her hand. "Thank you. That means a lot. Don't let it go to your head. You've still got 4 months to finish. Plenty of time to mess up." But she smiled when she said it. Not everyone changed their minds. Richard remained hostile. He questioned every decision, demanded extra reports, looked for any excuse to prove Daniel couldn't handle the job. One day, Richard showed up at the site unannounced. "Mr. Parker, walk with me." They went inside the building. The interior was taking shape. Original brick walls exposed, wooden beams restored, modern systems integrated carefully to preserve the historic character. "You've done well," Richard said. "Better than I expected." "Thank you. But there's a problem." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What problem?" "Catherine. She's getting worse." "Worse? How?" "Her health. She collapsed last week. Spent 2 nights in the hospital. She didn't want anyone to know, but—" Richard looked at him. "She's pushing herself too hard, trying to prove she can still run this company." "She can run it." "Can she? She's 72. She had a major accident. She needs to rest, not fight battles over hiring decisions." "Is this about Catherine or about you wanting control?" Richard's expression hardened. Careful, Mr. Parker. You're here because of her. When she's gone, you'll have no protection. Is that a threat? It's reality. Catherine's using her last energy to defend you. Every day she fights the board over your position is a day she's not taking care of herself. He moved closer. If you really care about her, you'll resign. Let her rest. Let her focus on her health instead of this crusade to prove something. Daniel felt sick. Get out. Think about it. Her health or your career? Your choice. Richard left. Daniel stood alone in the building he was bringing back to life and felt everything crumbling. Daniel drove straight to Catherine's penthouse. She opened the door, looking exhausted. Her face was pale. The cane shook in her hand. Daniel, what's wrong? Why didn't you tell me you were in the hospital? Catherine's expression shuddered. Richard told you. He said you collapsed, that you're pushing yourself too hard defending me. Come inside. They sat in her living room, the same place where she'd offered him a job 6 months ago. Everything had changed since then. It's true, Catherine said. I collapsed. Low blood pressure, exhaustion. The doctor said I need to reduce stress. Then let me resign. No. Catherine, listen. No, you listen. Her voice was firm despite her physical weakness. Richard is manipulating you. He wants you gone so he can take over the company. Your resignation wouldn't help me. It would kill me. How can you say that? Because for the first time in 5 years, I have a reason to get up in the morning. Catherine's eyes were fierce. You and Emma gave me that. This project gave me that. Watching you prove everyone wrong gave me that. She leaned forward. If I spend my last days resting in bed, doing nothing, fighting for nothing, I'll die anyway. At least this way, I die fighting for something that matters. Don't talk like that. Why not? It's true. I'm 72. I had a massive accident. I'm living on borrowed time. She smiled sadly. But it's good time, Daniel. Better than the 5 years before you walked into my life. I can't be the reason You're not the reason. You're the solution. Richard is the reason. The board's resistance is the reason. People who can't accept change are the reason. She took his hand. Don't let them win. Please. Daniel sat in silence, torn between protecting Catherine and protecting himself. What if I'm not worth it? He finally said. What if you're sacrificing your health for someone who's going to fail anyway? You won't fail. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I've watched you for 6 months. I've seen you work 16-hour days. I've seen you mentor those apprentices with more patience than anyone on my staff shows their direct reports. I've seen you solve problems that engineers with PhDs couldn't figure out. She squeezed his hand. You're not going to fail, Daniel. You're going to succeed, and you're going to change this industry. You're going to show everyone that talent comes from hard work and passion, not from expensive degrees. And if you die doing this, Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then I die happy, fighting for something real, with people I care about. That's more than I've had in a very long time. Daniel's phone rang. Emma's daycare. Mr. Parker, Emma's running a fever. Can you pick her up? I'll be right there. He stood. I have to go. Of course. Is Emma okay? Just a fever. She'll be fine. Catherine stood too, using her cane. Daniel, think about what I said. Please don't resign. Don't let Richard win. I'll think about it. He picked up Emma and took her home. She was burning up. 102 degrees. He gave her medicine, put her to bed, sat beside her holding a cold cloth to her forehead. Daddy, she mumbled. Tell me about Mommy. What do you want to know, sweetheart? Was she brave? The bravest person I ever knew. Even when she was sick. Daniel's throat tightened. Especially when she was sick. Emma's fevered eyes looked up at him. Grandma Kathy's sick too. Is she brave? Yes. Very brave. Then you have to be brave too. Like them. I'm trying, baby. Try harder. Emma's eyes drifted closed. Mommy would want you to be brave. Daniel sat there all night watching his daughter sleep, thinking about courage and sacrifice and what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. By morning, Emma's fever had broken. She woke up demanding pancakes. Daniel made breakfast, got her ready for school, and made a decision. He called Catherine. I'm not resigning. He heard her exhale with relief. Thank you. But you have to promise me something. You have to take care of yourself. Real care. Doctor's appointments. Rest when you need it. No more collapsing. Deal. And, Catherine, I'm going to finish this building. I'm going to make it perfect. For you. For us, she corrected. We're a team. Yeah, we are. 2 months later, the Morrison building was complete. The transformation was stunning. Original brick walls restored, wooden floors refinished to their 1892 glory, modern systems hidden behind careful renovations, and most importantly, fully accessible. Ramps that looked like they'd always been there, elevators disguised as service shafts, wide doorways, accessible bathrooms, history and inclusion working together. The grand reopening was scheduled for November 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving. Catherine insisted on being there. She'd been in and out of the hospital twice more, but nothing could keep her away. Daniel arrived early that morning. The building gleamed in the autumn sunlight. 500 people were expected: city officials, historical society members, press. Jennifer found him in the main hall. "Mr. Parker, there's someone here to see you." A man stepped forward, late 40s, expensive suit. Catherine's eyes. "You must be Daniel. I'm James Morrison, Catherine's son." They shook hands. James looked around the building with an unreadable expression. "It's beautiful," he said finally. "My mother told me about it, but I didn't believe." "She did most of the work," Daniel said. "I just executed her vision." "That's not what she says. She says you saved her life." Daniel didn't know what to say to that. "I came to apologize," James continued. "I haven't been there for my mother for years, and you have. You and your daughter. You gave her something I couldn't. We just—" "Let me finish." James's voice cracked. "I was selfish. I blamed her for not being there when I was young, so I punished her by staying away. Even after Dad died, even after her accident, I justified it by telling myself she didn't need me." He wiped his eyes. "But she did need me, and I wasn't there. You were. James, thank you for showing up, for giving her a reason to keep fighting, for reminding her that people can be good." Before Daniel could respond, Catherine arrived. She wasn't in her wheelchair. She walked with her cane slowly but steadily. She wore a blue dress and looked more alive than Daniel had ever seen her. And beside her, holding her arm, was Emma. "Daddy." Emma ran to him. "Look." Grandma Kathy walked all the way from the car. Catherine smiled at him. "I wanted to walk into this building on my own 2 feet. James stepped forward. "Hi, Mom." Catherine froze. "James, what are you doing here?" "I came to see your building." "And to apologize." Mother and son stared at each other. Years of hurt and distance between them. Then Catherine opened her arms. "Come here." James crossed the space in 3 steps and hugged his mother. Both of them were crying. Daniel turned away to give them privacy. Emma slipped her hand into his. "See," she whispered, "I told you everything would be okay." "You were right, sweetheart." The ceremony began at noon. 500 people filled the restored building. The mayor spoke. The head of the Historical Society spoke. Then Catherine stood at the podium. Daniel tried to help her up, but she waved him off. She gripped her cane and stood alone. 30 years ago, she began, I built Morrison Industries from nothing. One property, one dream, one woman who people said couldn't do it because she was too young, too female, too inexperienced. Her voice grew stronger. I proved them wrong, and in the process, I made a lot of money. I built a lot of buildings. I earned a lot of respect. She paused. But I lost what mattered. I lost time with my son. I lost my husband to an accident I might have prevented if I'd been there. I lost myself. Catherine looked at Daniel. And then last Christmas, I sat alone in a restaurant feeling sorry for myself. And a little girl told me that nobody should be alone on Christmas. And she was right. Emma beamed from the front row. That little girl and her father reminded me what matters. People, kindness, connection, using what you have to lift others up instead of building walls around yourself. She gestured around the building. This isn't just a restoration, it's a promise. A promise that Morrison Industries will be different going forward. That will create opportunities for talented people regardless of their credentials. That will preserve history while building a future that includes everyone. Catherine looked directly at Daniel. 6 months ago, I hired a man everyone said I was crazy to hire. A carpenter with no degree. A single father with medical debt. Someone the system had rejected 23 times. She smiled. He proved every single one of them wrong. He finished this project early and under budget. He trained a dozen apprentices who now have real careers. He reminded me why I started this company in the first place. The crowd applauded. Catherine waved for silence. But more than that, Daniel Parker gave me a family when I thought I'd lost mine forever. He and Emma showed me what really matters. Not buildings, not money, not success. Her voice broke. Love, connection, being there for people. That's what matters. That's what lasts. She turned to the crowd. So, yes, we're celebrating this building today, but more importantly, we're celebrating second chances and the people brave enough to give them." The applause was thunderous. Daniel stood beside Emma, tears streaming down his face. Catherine came down from the podium. James helped her. She walked straight to Daniel. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. Thank you for believing in me." Emma hugged Catherine's waist. "Grandma Kathy, can we come to your house for Thanksgiving tomorrow?" Catherine looked at Daniel. "Can you?" "We'd love to." "Then yes, sweetheart. We'll have Thanksgiving together. All of us." She looked at James. "You too. And bring your family from France." James nodded, too emotional to speak. That night, Daniel tucked Emma into bed in their tiny apartment. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby. I'm glad Grandma Kathy picked you." "Me too. And I'm glad we're a family now. Even though Mommy's not here, we still have a family." Daniel kissed her forehead. "Yeah, sweetheart, we do." After Emma fell asleep, Daniel sat at his kitchen table and looked at a letter that had arrived that day. From the medical billing company. Final notice, balance paid in full, $180,000. A note attached in Catherine's handwriting. "Nobody should carry that burden alone. Consider it a bonus, you earned it." Daniel put his head in his hands and cried, not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming sense that maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't always cruel. Maybe sometimes it sent a little girl in a purple coat to remind you that nobody should be alone. Maybe sometimes it sent a lonely old woman who saw your worth when nobody else could. Maybe sometimes it gave you a second chance. And maybe if you were very lucky, it gave you a family that wasn't bound by blood, but by something stronger. Love, choice, the decision to show up for each other no matter what. Daniel looked at the photo of Sarah on his table. "I hope you can see this," he whispered. "I hope you know we're okay. Better than okay. We're happy." He could almost hear her voice. "I always knew you'd be okay. You're the strongest person I know. And the kindest. Don't ever forget that." "I won't," he promised. "I love you." The next day, Thanksgiving, Daniel and Emma went to Catherine's penthouse. James was there with his wife Marie and their 2 children. The apartment that had been empty for 5 years was now full of noise and laughter and life. Catherine sat at the head of the table, Emma on one side and James on the other, and looked around at her family, the one she'd been born into and the one she'd chosen. "I want to say something," she announced. Everyone quieted. "Last Christmas, I thought my life was over. I was alone, in pain, ready to give up." She looked at Emma and Daniel, and then 2 people walked into a restaurant and changed everything. She raised her glass. "To second chances, to new beginnings, to families we choose, and to the courage it takes to show up for each other, even when the world tells us we can't." "To second chances," everyone echoed. They ate, they laughed, they shared stories. Emma taught James's children how to play the piano. Daniel and Marie talked about teaching and learning and the importance of giving kids hope. And Catherine sat in her wheelchair, no longer fighting to stand, just being present, and felt more whole than she had in decades. As the evening wound down, Emma climbed into Catherine's lap. "Grandma Kathy, yes, sweetheart, will you be here next Christmas?" The room went quiet. Catherine hugged Emma tight. "I'll fight to be here, I promise." "Good, because I love you. I love you too, my darling girl." After everyone left, Catherine sat alone in her apartment. But it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full of love, full of memories being made, full of promise. She picked up the phone and called Daniel. "Thank you," she said when he answered. "For what?" "For saving my life, for giving me a reason to wake up every morning, for showing me what really matters." "Catherine, you saved mine first. Then we saved each other, and that's the best Christmas gift I've ever received." They talked for another hour, about Emma, about James, about the future, about all the buildings they would restore, and all the people they would help. When Catherine finally hung up, she wheeled to her window and looked out at the city. "I did it, Thomas," she whispered to the stars. "I found my way back. I found a family. I found a reason." And somewhere in the universe, she liked to imagine Thomas was smiling. Because love doesn't die. It just changes form. It becomes the courage to try again, the willingness to open your heart to strangers, the decision to show up even when everything hurts. It becomes a little girl in a purple coat singing off-key in a restaurant, a carpenter with kind eyes and capable hands, a lonely old woman who finally learned that money can't buy what matters, but love can heal what's broken. And on Christmas morning, 1 year later, they all gathered again in Catherine's penthouse. Catherine was weaker now. The cancer they'd found in March was winning. But she was happy. Emma opened presents. James made coffee. Daniel helped Catherine to her chair by the window. "This is everything," Catherine said softly. "This moment, right here. This is everything." "Yes," Daniel agreed. "It is." Emma brought over a drawing. "I made this for you, Grandma Kathy." It was a family portrait, stick figures holding hands. 4 adults, 3 children, and in the middle, a woman in a wheelchair. "Family is love," Emma had written at the bottom. "Merry Christmas." Catherine held the picture to her chest and cried because she finally understood what she'd been searching for her entire life. Not success, not money, not buildings or empires or recognition, just this: love, family, connection, the courage to let people in, and the grace to accept that sometimes the family you need isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you choose, the one that chooses you back, the one that shows up on Christmas and reminds you that nobody should be alone. Ever.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.